Late one night in 2012, in a private high-stakes room, Phil Ivey quietly studied the baccarat cards being dealt before him. At his side sat Chung Yin, Kelly's son, an associate with an uncanny eye for detail. Together, they had arranged for seemingly trivial conditions that no one questioned. A Mandarin-speaking dealer, a specific brand of purple pattern cards, an automatic shuffling machine, and even the dealer's indulgence in rotating certain cards for good luck. Unbeknownst to the casino staff, these requests were the heart of a subtle scheme. By convincing the dealer to turn high-value cards, like 7s, 8s, and 9s, 180 degrees, Ivey and Son were effectively sorting the deck's strongest cards from its weakest. The pattern on the backs of the cards was not perfectly symmetrical. A card rotated end for end looked slightly different from one aligned normally. As play continued, Son identified these minute imperfections and signaled which face-down cards were likely high or low. Ivey adjusted his bets accordingly, pressing the wager when the odds swung in his favor. In this way, the pair legally altered the game's balance without ever touching a card themselves. By the end of the session, they walked away with a staggering win. Under the casino's nose, Phil Ivey and Kelly Son had pulled off an extraordinary coup, exploiting the house's own cards to pocket millions in what would become the most infamous edge-sorting scandal in casino history. Edge sorting was the ingenious technique behind Ivey and Son's success. In essence, it meant turning the casino's cards into a telltale signal. Many decks of playing cards have tiny manufacturing quirks, patterns on the back that aren't perfectly uniform if a card is rotated 180 degrees. For a casual observer, these differences are nearly invisible, but Kelly Son had trained herself to spot them. During play, whenever a high-value card appeared, crucial cards in baccarat such as 7, 8, or 9, she politely asked the dealer to flip it around, pretending it was a superstitious gesture for good luck. The accommodating dealer, seeing no harm, would oblige. Unwittingly, the dealer was aligning all the valuable cards in one orientation and the low-value cards in the opposite orientation. Because Ivey and Son had also requested an automatic shuffler, the cards would be shuffled without changing their rotation. Over time, the shoe became sorted, high cards all facing one way, low cards the other. When the cards were dealt face down, Son could tell by the pattern on the back whether it was likely a high card or a low card. This gave Ivey a tremendous statistical edge, far beyond what any normal player could ever achieve. Importantly, they never physically marked the cards. They simply capitalized on existing imperfections. In a game like baccarat, which is usually pure chance, this technique turned the odds upside down. What looked like mere eccentricities and superstition to casino staff was actually a carefully choreographed strategy. With edge sorting, Ivey and Son found a way to circumvent the house advantage so long as the casino granted their unusual requests. Phil Ivey was already a legend in gambling circles. By 2012, he was considered one of the world's greatest poker players, earning multiple World Series of Poker titles and the nickname Tiger Woods of poker. Casinos treated him as a VIP whale, a high roller they were eager to indulge. Ivey's partner in the baccarat venture, Chung Yin, Kelly's son, was a skilled gambler with a razor-sharp eye. Son had learned the edge-sorting technique after suffering heavy gambling losses and even landing in legal trouble over casino debts. Determined to get revenge on the house, she honed her ability to spot tiny imperfections on cards, earning the nickname Queen of Sorts. It was Son who brought the edge-sorting method to the table, but she needed someone with deep pockets and influence to put it into practice. In Phil Ivey, she found that perfect partner. With Ivey's fame and bankroll, the duo could request special playing conditions that most gamblers could never get, and casinos readily obliged, not realizing they were setting the stage for their own defeat. Together, Ivey and Son formed a formidable team. Ivey provided the clout and financing, while Son provided the technique and precision. Both were united by a daring goal: to beat the casinos at their own game without breaking any official rules. As they prepared to execute their plan, casino staff saw nothing amiss, just a celebrity player and his companion, making quirky requests at the baccarat table. Armed with their edge-sorting strategy, Ivey and Son went on a remarkable winning streak in 2012. At the Borgata Hotel Casino in Atlantic City, over the course of several spring and summer visits, they won roughly $9.6 million in total. The casino staff, from dealers to supervisors, saw only that Phil Ivey was on an incredible lucky run, and they accommodated his every request, oblivious to the trap being set. Flush with success in Atlantic City, Ivey and Son traveled to London in August 2012 to try their technique at Crockford's, one of Britain's oldest and most elite casinos. There, in a private room at the Punto Banco Baccarat table, they employed the same tactics and amassed an astonishing £7.8 million win, about $12 million. Initially, Crockford's management congratulated Ivey on his win and even provided written confirmation that his winnings would be transferred to him. But as soon as Ivey and Son left, Crockford's began to suspect that something was off. Upon reviewing the footage and the unusual conditions of play, the London casino decided to freeze the payout. They returned Ivey's £1 million stake, but refused to release the £7.8 million in winnings pending an investigation. This was the first major sign that Ivey and Son's run was too good to be true. Meanwhile, back in Atlantic City, word quietly spread in the casino industry about Ivey's disputed win in London. Even so, Borgata officials did not intervene immediately. In October 2012, Borgata allowed Ivey and Son to play one last high-stakes session. Once again, the pair walked away winners, adding another $800,000 to their tally. It would be the last time they ever used edge sorting openly on a casino floor. The incredible winnings they amassed by then had set off alarms, and the stage was set for a confrontation over what really happened at those baccarat tables. Crockford's refusal to pay made headlines and blew the scheme out into the open. Late in 2012, news outlets reported that a top London casino was accusing Phil Ivey of cheating after his unbelievable win. The public revelation put pressure on both the casino and Ivey. For Crockford's, it was about proving they had been duped. For Ivey, it was a threat to his reputation and a signal that the easy money was about to dry up. The leaked story of the Crockford's incident is what prompted Ivey and Son to attempt that final October session at Borgata, essentially trying to capitalize one more time before all casinos caught on. By now, Borgata's management had also started to review those astonishing spring and summer baccarat sessions. They noted the pattern of Ivey's special requests, the specific cards, the automatic shuffler, the Mandarin-speaking dealer, and Son's constant presence and unusual card-turning ritual. It dawned on Borgata that the same methods used in London had likely been employed in Atlantic City. What had looked like a lucky streak was actually a carefully engineered advantage. Armed with this realization, Borgata and Crockford's independently prepared to challenge Ivey. The question was no longer whether Ivey and Son had won big, it was whether those wins were obtained fairly. With suspicions now fully aroused and millions on the line, the dispute moved from the casino floor to the courtroom. By 2013, the fight had moved into the courts. Phil Ivey sued Crockford's in Britain to recover the £7.8 million, insisting he had won fairly and that edge sorting was a legitimate advantage play. The Genting-owned casino argued the win was illegitimate and stood by its refusal to pay. At the same time, in the United States, Atlantic City's Borgata filed its own lawsuit against Ivey and Son, seeking to claw back the $9.6 million they had won at Baccarat. Borgata claimed that Ivey and Son had breached the implicit contract of the game by manipulating conditions and effectively marking cards by their actions. The legal arguments on both sides boiled down to a fundamental dispute. Ivey maintained he used skill and keen observation, while the casinos claimed he cheated by subverting the game's integrity. In October 2014, London's High Court delivered a pivotal judgment. The court ruled in favor of Crockford's, declaring that edge sorting was indeed cheating under civil law, even if Ivey genuinely believed his method was fair. The judge reasoned that by turning the croupier into an unwitting assistant in fixing the deck, Ivey had taken an unfair advantage not envisioned by the rules. Across the Atlantic, a similar showdown was unfolding. In late 2016, U.S. District Judge Noel Hillman ruled that while Ivey and Son did not commit fraud at Borgata, they had breached their contract with the casino and violated New Jersey gambling regulations by gaining an illegal edge. He ordered Ivey and Sun to repay the $9.6 million to Borgata. In both jurisdictions, the initial verdicts went against Ivey. For the first time, courts had weighed in on edge sorting, and their message was clear. What Ivey and Sun did was viewed as cheating in the eyes of the law. Phil Ivey fought back in the courts, appealing the decisions that labeled him a cheater. In London, he took his case to the Court of Appeal and then to the UK Supreme Court. However, he found no sympathy. In November 2016, the Court of Appeal upheld the ruling against him. And in October 2017, the UK Supreme Court unanimously agreed that Crockford's had acted within its rights to withhold the £7.8 million. The justices concluded that Ivey's actions, however cleverly executed, amounted to a deliberate interference with the game. Crucially, the UK court held that dishonesty was not a necessary element of cheating. In other words, even if Ivey sincerely believed he was not cheating, his edge-sorting scheme still violated the fundamental rule of the game that chance alone should determine the outcome. In the United States, Ivey initially indicated he would appeal Judge Hillman's 2016 decision, but his options were limited. He tried to get the case reheard or moved to a higher court. While legal maneuvers were ongoing, the Borgata Casino pressed forward to enforce the judgment. By 2017 and 2018, Borgata had obtained permission to pursue Ivey's assets in Nevada, where he lived and played, since he had no substantial assets in New Jersey. The casino's lawyers even targeted Ivey's tournament winnings in Las Vegas, attempting to seize any prize money to apply against the debt. Feeling the squeeze, Ivey eventually reached a confidential settlement with Borgata in July 2020, bringing the long legal battle to a close. The exact terms were not made public, but the settlement allowed both sides to avoid further appeals and enforcement fights. After nearly 8 years, the greatest edge-sorting saga in casino history was effectively over. Ivey had to relinquish a large portion of his gains, and the casinos had asserted that the house would not sit quietly after a massive loss. The Phil Ivey edge-sorting scandal forced casinos worldwide to tighten up their games. After seeing how a flaw in card design and a few concessions could cost them millions, casinos became far more vigilant. Unusual player requests, like specific card brands or dealing procedures, began to draw immediate scrutiny or outright refusal. Many venues changed their policies. For example, some stopped using cards with asymmetrical patterns in high-stakes games, eliminating the kind of defect Ivey and Sun had exploited. Dealers were trained not to indulge card rotation superstitions anymore. In short, the house plugged the holes that the edge-sorting scheme had exposed. Regulators and courts also clarified the boundaries of legitimate play versus cheating. In New Jersey, Ivey's case underscored that exploiting card defects falls under prohibited conduct, reinforcing the state's casino regulations. In the UK, the Supreme Court decision in Ivey v. Genting became a landmark in gambling law, making it clear that advantage play can be considered cheating, even absent fraudulent intent. These outcomes gave casinos legal backing to crack down on similar strategies in the future. Among gamblers, the saga sparked debate about what constitutes fair play. Some argued Ivey had simply been smart, using skill and observation like a blackjack card counter. But others noted that unlike card counting, which involves only mental strategy, edge sorting required active manipulation of the game environment. The consensus in the industry leaned toward the latter view. After this scandal, any technique that tampered with the intended randomness of a casino game was likely to be deemed off-limits. The story of Ivey and Sun became a cautionary tale told in casinos and gambling circles worldwide. Even if you find a clever way to beat the house and the law may come back for its due. Years later, the edge-sorting saga remains one of the most famous casino capers of all time. In the aftermath, Phil Ivey largely returned to the poker world. He continued to play in high-profile tournaments, and in 2017, he was even inducted into the Poker Hall of Fame. However, the shadow of the court cases lingered. For a period, certain casinos were reportedly cautious about welcoming Ivey back to their baccarat tables. Ultimately, Ivey paid a price for his adventure, financially and reputationally. but he also solidified his notoriety as a gambler willing to push boundaries. Chung Yin, Kelly's son, often dubbed the Baccarat Queen, or Queen of Sorts, also gained a kind of fame from the scandal. She was said to have taught her edge sorting techniques to other advantage players after the dust settled. Her story of revenge against the casinos proved irresistible to Hollywood. A film project was announced with actress Awkwafina slated to portray Sun in a movie based on the edge sorting scheme. Whether on screen or around gambling circles, Kelly's son's legend as the mastermind who took on the casinos remains strong. The legacy of the Ivey-Sun edge sorting case is felt in how casinos operate and how gamblers view the line between skill and cheating. The scheme showed that even the mightiest casinos could be outwitted, but also that the house would fight back hard. Phil Ivey's controversial gamble ultimately changed casino policies and became a part of gambling lore. It stands as an authoritative lesson that in the world of betting, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. And the consequences of pushing the limits can be as dramatic as the winnings themselves. This is Unraveling Hub, where every con has its code and every scandal leaves a scar. Like, share, and subscribe for more true tales that blend brilliance, betrayal, and billions.